Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Chamber for having me. Really appreciate it. I spend about 60% of my time, believe it or not, among all my other stuff that I do in education. And getting to go to the fun junkets for FBI and Homeland and IBM and all the other fun stuff where they tell us about how, bad of a job we're doing and how we need to do better and what we have to do better. The reason why we call it the myth is that one of the biggest questions I get asked, the most common especially by small business owners, is, what should I be using? It's not really about software you should be using. It's about the practices you need to be deploying in your life and understanding what they have, how they use it, and what you should be doing as far as habits in your life to understand, to recognize those methods, and how much trust you should be giving those things, which is zero. You can't trust anything that comes into you through text, email, phone. What you have to realize, the other second question I get is, hey, is my information on the dark web? Do any of you own one of these? Guess what? It's out there about 4 or 5 times over, including your social security number, okay? If you had AT&T, Verizon, I don't care who it is, if you had Xfinity or AT&T at home, your stuff is out there, okay? If you've got a kid in school, your stuff is out there, all right? If you got a kid in college, your stuff is out there. It's not about what they have. It's about how they're using it against you, and what you run on your computer to protect your computer, your firewall, has nothing to do with how they get into you, okay? Yes, it's good to have, but it's not where they start. Who can tell me what the number one method is for people getting into your life? How do they get into your computer? Do they get in by text? How do they get to you? How do they get into your life? Email? Dude, what do we call that? There we go, phishing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what the myth is. The myth is that antivirus firewalls, 9 out of 10 breaches, 94% of breaches that have originated in the last 6 years start with phishing. The thing that comes right behind it is credential theft, because they are tied in together. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get you to go somewhere to make it look like something it's not. Netflix, UPS, Office, Google, whatever it might be, all right? And get you to put something in, your password combination, that you would normally put in. And then it doesn't work, of course. So what do? Oh man, that must be the wrong password. So you throw in another password. By the time you've gone through 4 or 5 passwords that are valid passwords with other things through your environment, you now realize that, oops, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. At this point, you are toast, okay? They've already taken this stuff and it's running through scripts, and they are running it against everything in your life. I'm talking about Gmail, Office, Netflix. These guys are very sophisticated, and they are businesses. These are not guys sitting in rooms, okay? Just in a little dark room. It's not like Hackers, from 1984 where you got Angela Jolie back there and they're sitting with modems out of phone booths. It's not sexy, okay? These are businesses in offices like this in Pakistan, the Philippines, Finland, Russia, North Korea. They have 30, 35 people in their offices, and they got just lists and lists of people, and they go after everybody and anybody for everything they can get. And I'm going to be giving you guys some very real world examples from just the last 45 days today. Some including myself and my parents, where this has happened to. And one that just happened this last week to a client who actually had one happen through the US mail, of all things. The hacker actually, we'll talk about that when we get to it, but let's go ahead and talk about what the real figures are. So this is just a general graph to give you, and I'm going to skim over this very quickly. So in 18, we start seeing ransomware start to hit the market, okay? It actually was out there sooner, but this is where we start to see it really impact. By the way, these numbers are in thousands, okay? So this is about 175,000 attacks in that year. Now, the average remediation cost, which is this lighter blue number, that is actually around between $2,000 and $5,000 per, that means what the average was per event, okay? So that's where it started. This is when they were just locking you out, and you got, here, contact me with Bitcoin and I will give you the key to unlock your data, all right? 19, they're being successful. Look what happens to the remediation costs. Attack goes down, but look what happens. This goes up by a factor of 5. Now we're getting a lot more money. They're realizing they can be successful, and the average cost has now gone up to $85,000 in 1 year, okay? We go into the next year. Attacks stay about the same, but again, look at the ransoms, double. Now we're looking at just shy of $185,000 average remediation cost. So in 3 years, we have jumped to $2,000 to $3,000 to $185,000 in 3 years. Now in 2020, we start to see something new. They realize people are getting smart. They're backing up data. So what do they start doing? Now they're going after your backups. They're getting into the system and they're doing two things. They're going after your backups and disabling or deleting them. 64% of that is happening. The second thing they're doing is they're stealing the data. Now, to a lot of us, that may not be a big deal. So they got my data. Who cares? It's not important to anybody. Well, if you are in a compliance regulated business where you have personal information, HIPAA, anything where you've got stuff that belongs to other people, that is not only just a compliance nightmare for you, it is also a violation nightmare for you. And it is a liability nightmare for you, because now you can be sued. If those people get compromised as a result of your breach and it can be proven, you now have third-party liability that you have opened your company up to and yourself up to, depending on your business. HIPAA, if I'm a dentist, a doctor, and my information gets breached, I got 5,000 patients, that's $5,000 times 5,000 patients. Can your business absorb that kind of fee? Think about that for a minute. This is things people are not thinking about. We find two types in this. I've been doing what I've been doing for 34 years. I don't need cyber. I'm fine. And then we got the other guys that are on the other side of that coin where they hit 3 or 4 times. They paid, they're not even sure these people are out, and they get hit over and over again, and they can't get these people out of their lives. The question is, what side of that coin? This is, if you're on that side where you haven't been hit yet, it's not if, it's when, okay? And it's arming yourself with information and knowing and recognizing how it's happening. You don't want to be on the other side. That's like trying to fix the airplane, after it's crashed and in the ground in 30 million pieces and on fire. You're not going to do a lot to prevent that crash at that point. It's a lot cheaper to prevent it than it is to deal with the consequences afterwards. Sir? That's paying the ransom, loss of business. Give you a good idea, we had an auto shop a couple of years ago we came into remediation for. They got shut out of payroll. They got unable to order parts, supplies, function as a company for 4 months. I don't know about you, and this is just a single shop in Katy that had been doing business for 15 years, but he almost lost his business over it. The question becomes he was able to absorb it, had some resources, was able to go back in business. The fact is 86% of companies who go through a major event like that, a small business, don't make it. They're gone. Okay? That's just the numbers. It only takes one person to sue you. Let's say you got one person who happens to be very rich. I actually manage networks for people down in River Oaks, okay, who are multi-generational money. If my company got breached and they got into them for that, he could come after me and sue me, and he's got a hell of a lot more money than I do, okay? And with HIPAA and some of these things, if you are a managing partner, like in an LLC, you can be personally liable for that stuff. It isn't like, it's like payroll taxes. You can't just walk away from that and go bankrupt. You got to pay, you're responsible. Same thing with lawsuits. Now you will have some degree of isolation with an LLC or some kind of a corporate entity, but only to a degree and at the discretion of the judge, actually. Especially with how bad cyber is getting right now, you're finding more and more companies like, our company's an IT company. There's a lot of people out there in our business do not know what they're doing. They manage IT for you. That's good and dandy, but what are you doing about, what should I have? What should be encrypted? What's the value of my data? What are you doing to keep people out of my network? Are you training my people? Are you teaching them how to recognize threats? Are you filtering my email to keep phishing crap out of my email? We have to be proactive, because the first time you get hit by something, guess what? You have 48 hours to report it to FBI. 48 hours. Used to be like days. FBI didn't used to care 5 years ago. Now you got to report it in 2 days, and they will basically call it their first kit. Okay, show us your cyber response plan. What's that? Most companies don't even have a clue, don't have one, okay? If you're a bookkeeper or doing anything in the financial industry, financial management, if you don't have a cyber response plan, you can't even manage people. You have to submit that to the IRS now. And you, especially as a bookkeeper or anybody that files taxes on anybody else's behalf, you have to file what they call a WISP. Anybody heard that term before? Okay, it basically tells the federal government that I have a plan if I get hacked, and these are all the preventions I'm doing. And if you don't have what you say you've done, you're in a lot of trouble. It's a felony. So yeah, it's getting serious, all right? My point in all this, and I want to get through this as quickly as possible, is we start to see this double-edged sword where now, if you don't pay, they're threatening to sell or release your data. So we start to see attacks go up. We start to see remediation costs go up to just under 400. In 2022, for the first time, we see the average remediation costs hit just under $1 million. Now, according to IBM, for 2023, their figures that they went over and released about 2 months ago when I was in Tennessee, I was up in Nashville for that. Their head of that division came out and said, basically, the worldwide average right now is 5 million. And if you're in the States, double it. That's a big number, okay? This is just some stuff from Statista. You can see here, business email compromise, the #1 leading cause, okay? You have other things, financial fraud, investment fraud, there's a lot of things. Right now, we've seen people stealing stuff from realtors and committing wire fraud. They pretend to be a realtor, have a property that they put for sale, they're not really listing it, they take a deposit. This happened in Hollywood actually about 6 months ago. A guy took a deposit, $1 million deposit on property he wasn't even listing, stole the money. House was not even for sale. They sent him a fake deed for the property and made it look real. Guys, this is my house. I had no idea this was happening to his house, a $4 million house in San Francisco. This is happening like crazy. It's happening in every industry. So we get here, and I want to show you this number because this to me is the staggering part. By the way, these numbers are in trillions. Trillions. I want that to sink in for a minute. This is worldwide. Right now, for 2024, they're estimating the yearly for there to be around about 14.5 trillion worldwide, the damage due to cyber crime. Now, look at this number for 2027. We're talking about a number that represents 2/3 of our national debt. That's huge, okay? So this isn't going away anytime soon. The question is, what are you gonna do to not be a part of that, is my question. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. All right, so why antivirus doesn't protect you, why firewalls doesn't protect you. Yeah, it's protecting your endpoint, but your endpoint has nothing to do with how they're getting into you. They're getting into you through, we talked about it, phishing, credential theft. So they get into you by hacking into your cloud instances first, okay? Stuff you aren't paying attention to, stuff you'd have no way of knowing unless you were monitoring it, okay? How many of you guys know what MFA is? Everybody know what MFA is? Anybody not know what MFA is? Multi-factor authentication, okay. How many of you have to put in a code from your phone or use Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator to get in? I'm going to tell you something. It is not infallible, and I'm going to show you an example. It happened to me. We've fended off an attack from a Chinese company 4 weeks ago. We got targeted through a chain supply attack. One of the companies we were doing business with got hacked. I got an email from the president of that company, a legitimate email, with a URL that had been compromised to a server in China to look like theirs, okay? We logged into it with our credentials to access project files like we normally do, and in that instance, they stole my credentials. Now, I've got admin access to hundreds of networks, okay? So that could be potentially dangerous. I also have cyber on my phone. I had to use my Microsoft Authenticator on my phone to authenticate that. Within 5 minutes, our system started detecting logins from 4 places in China, from Holland, and 2 in the Philippines and 3 in the States. Almost 11 different places simultaneously into my account. It was raised within 3-4 minutes. We isolated the account, turned it off, prevented the access because we were monitoring it. We knew what to look for. Those are what we call suspicious login activity. That's the difference between having something, that is something endpoint. This stuff, never catch. You never would have known because this stuff doesn't do anything to look out for that. And that's how 94% of stuff is being hacked. Has nothing to do with antivirus. We're going to talk about this. It's still important to have, and I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. But it is not how they're getting in. How many of you know about the United Healthcare hack? You guys know United Healthcare got hacked, right? Biggest healthcare hack in history. It cost them $1 billion. The Change network that powers their entire infrastructure got hacked from behind, chain supply attack, very similar. By the way, on that attack, I forgot to mention, they got my phone too. When they installed our cyber on our product, on our phones, managed to catch 12 certificates from China being installed on my phone. And when that happened, that means that if any time I would have used my phone to reset the authentication for my password, guess who would have got a copy of my new password? Yep, but our stuff caught it. We wiped any phone, we wiped my phone at the same time. So within 10 minutes, we had the complete thing shut down and nobody never saw them again. But that was mainland China attack, state sponsored into our company. So it happens to everybody and anybody. And we're not a big company in the landscape. I mean, we're 15 people. We're not CloudStrike. So we're going to talk about this for a minute. Antivirus software. Well, number one, it only protects you from what it knows about, okay? That's like, I know there's a pothole right there, so I'm going to avoid the pothole. Well, that's easy. That's what antivirus protects you against, what it knows about. It usually does, most of the stuff out there does not protect you against anything that is modern, what we call zero-day threats. Anybody heard the term zero-day exploits? Do you know what it is? Zero-day is a term we use for broken software that they don't know how to fix. Do you know how much software has zero-day exploits in it? All of it. Windows, Apple, iOS, Android, all of them. And I'm not talking about one, I'm talking about 30, 40, 50 exploits they don't know how to fix, okay? They don't tell you this because they don't want to panic you and they want you to buy their products. And we rely on their products every day. But as they start to see them being actively exploited, then they start patching and put a priority on it. And they won't tell you that it's being exploited until after they've released a fix, and you'll see something that comes out and says update your phones. You'll get an Android update, or iOS update, or an update to Chrome, an update to Windows, and you'll always see the term zero-day exploit fixed. You'll see that fix 7 of them or fix 2. That's because they found a fix to something that was actively being exposed by hackers in the wild, okay? Anybody had their pop-up happen that took over their screen? Said it was something it wasn't. You got a virus. Don't hit Control-Alt-Delete. Don't turn off your computer. Call this number. And they pretend to be Microsoft, Symantec, something else. Actually, your computer's not actually compromised at that point, but if you click anything within that window, it will be. That's what we call clickbait. I'm going to tell you an easy way to fix that. If this ever happens to you in any system whatsoever, get to the task manager. If you don't know how to do that in Windows, that's simply Control-Alt-Delete. It'll go to a menu that shows you 5 or 6 things. One says Task Manager. Bring that up. It'll bring you a list of all running things on the computer that will still work, even with the screen being blocked, because all that you're seeing is a sales presentation. It is a web page that has been programmed to take over your screen and make you think that something's there when it's not. And if you click on anything like don't do this, call the number, any of those things, then you are going to put something on your computer you don't want, okay? So you basically bring up the task manager and close, select every browser in there and kill it, okay? If you're using Chrome, find all the instances of Chrome and hit end task, okay? It's as simple as that. If you're using Edge, same thing. Just close every instance. You're gonna see it disappear. The whole thing will just disappear from your screen, okay? At that point, when you reopen your browser, it's going to ask you if you want to restore the previous session. Say no, unless you want the same thing to come right back up and flood your screen again. So at that point, then go in and empty your cache. Everybody know what a cache is? Everybody knows what a cache is? Okay. Cache is where most people don't realize when you land on a web page, you are basically copying that web page to your computer. Okay, those files exist on your computer at that point. So go into your settings and under security, you'll see empty cache, delete your browser history. Just get rid of all that, and it will do that. You don't have to get rid of cookies. Cookies are okay, because that'll delete your saved passwords and stuff like that, but everything but cookies, okay? Cookies are okay. The main thing we want to get rid of is the site you just went to and all the files that are stored on your hard drive related to that site, okay? It doesn't account for polymorphic malware. Polymorphic malware is that's a mouthful. What that does is it puts itself in multiple places on your computer. And when you delete it, it has sub-processes that look for that And if it doesn't see it, it installs another version of it somewhere else under another name. Very hard to get rid of. So basically you think you've cleaned it and then it pops up again later. So if you've ever had any kind of like malware on your computer that you can't figure out how it keeps coming back, that's polymorphic malware. It has a way, it has processes that look out for itself and will keep coming back and coming back and coming back until you find all of them, okay? And it can be very tough to get rid of. Now, social engineering is something you guys should all have heard from. It's been in the news. Social engineering is, phishing is one of those terms. How many of you have kids? Everybody have kids, grandkids, anything like that? I've got both. Okay. Nobody's got kids? I saw a couple hands. Come on, man. I see too much gray hair in this audience, and as soon as my daughter said the word boyfriend, I had gray hair. I'm going to tell you, it's what it comes down to is this. There is a lot of stuff happening with schools. You got to be very careful. Schools are the honey pot. They're the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for hackers because they have everything on our kids, on us even. You need to watch your kids. Like, be a parent first, be their friend later. Okay, that's all I can tell you. These things are 2/3 of the people that contact our kids on these things are not who they say they are. Number one, there is a record of everything they do. They have this real weird thing that's been taught to them by other kids, I'm sure, that anything they do with their phone, any pictures they take, anything they send will just magically disappear. Anything could be further from the truth. We are seeing upwards of, last year, 7,000 documented cases of extortion against minors. Those are the ones we know about. 16 suicides last year alone that we know about. It's the reason why I started getting active on the family side, is because we saw this as a big trend that's increasing and not going away. Be a parent before being you can be their friend after they're out of the house. Protect them first. Trust me, you'll be glad. So we're going to talk about ways to reduce risk. And you can see here, and this is old data, but it's still true. 94% of hackers just grow up. Antivirus does nothing. It does absolutely zero to keep them out of your systems, okay? But as we combine and we add things, you see it reduce risk. The whole idea of this graphic is to show you that it takes multiple things to reduce risk, not just one, okay? You need to have email and spam filters. You need to keep your systems patched and updated. That's very, very important. That's how they exploit systems. Pop-up and ad blockers. Now, by default, a long time ago, this was not the case. Ad blockers were like something you had to pay for. Now they're built into Chrome and they're built into Edge, and that's really good, so it significantly reduces. Cybersecurity training for yourself, employees, very big. And then none of the above is none of the above is basic extra stuff we do, like monitoring and things. In our current solution, we bring your risk down from 94% down to less than 2 in our current solution, okay? So that just gives you an idea how much you reduce risk. And that's because we look at 8 different vectors when we're looking at cybersecurity, including live monitoring of your accounts. So if somebody logs into your account and you're in Houston, and then an hour later we get a login from Tennessee, we know that's not right. It's going to get flagged to us. Our people are going to be contacting you, going to email, and they're going to say, hey, there's a suspicious login from Tennessee. Are you there? Do you have anybody logging in from there? No. Get in there and change your password, because we only get notified if somebody actually got in. That means somebody from Tennessee got into your account. That means you need to get in there and fix it yesterday, or we will turn it off until you do. Our job is to protect you, not to wait for you to protect yourself. So that's kind of how we look at things. So next slide. How many of you have Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, combination of any of those? You think it's backup? You heard them telling you it's backup. Office tells you it's backup. Okay, Google tells you it's backup. It is not backup. Anybody know the definition of what a backup is? What a real definition of a backup is in our world when we look at a business side? A backup is something that comes in and takes a snapshot of something as it is right now, and it puts it off somewhere where it can't be touched. Okay, it disconnects from the real system. All right, and we verify it. We'll test boot it, make sure it's a good backup. And then it's stored there in what we call persistent storage. Persistent storage is storage that hackers can't touch. They can't get to it from the end device, okay? That's a real backup. None of these systems qualify as backups, and all of them have been hacked, okay? All of them. And the reason why I have this slide is for one purpose, and that's to emphasize to you that these are file sharing services, and they do more to distribute viruses than they do to back you up. It's convenient to put a copy of your stuff where you can get to it from multiple devices, but that means it can put a virus in multiple places at the same time too. Perfect example, we had an attorney that had a Mac at home, opened an infected PDF, it worked fine. Put it in his Dropbox for a secretary who was on Windows, opened it in her office machine and successfully encrypted her machine and her partner, her boss's machine, who was a partner and had access to the entire file system on the server. So within an hour, it managed to encrypt her, him, and 25% of the network server. Now we were able to stop it and reverse it, disconnect it, get it out, restore it from backup. He didn't have anything important, so nothing got compromised or stolen. But the point is that it is a file distribution service. Keep that in mind when you're using these services. It is convenient, but it is the farthest thing from a backup, okay? How hackers get into us, and this is what we're gonna talk about. So there's 4 main things. Phishing emails, we talked about that. Phishing emails right now, responsible for 9 out of 10 hacks. They were responsible for MGM, Caesars, the big automotive thing where it took down 184 dealerships for Sonic or something like that. It was a big number. They couldn't even sell cars, service cars, buy parts for nearly 2 months, I think it was. Had to go back to writing sales contracts on paper to sell cars. It's a real fact. They had to go pull out the old dot matrix printers. Remember those? Same thing with change. We talked about the healthcare systems. We're seeing where this disruption is very big, okay? And phishing is responsible for 94% of it. Clickbait pop-ups, we talked about that, where it takes over your screen, puts up a little pop-up in the corner that says, hey, we found a virus or your system is compromised, contact Microsoft. I'm gonna tell you right now, Microsoft or any other antivirus company is never gonna pop something up on your screen that says, call me. You ever try to find a phone number for Norton or Microsoft online? Amazon? I can't even find a number for Amazon that's good, hardly. Yeah, phone numbers are not something these guys like to publish, so they're definitely not going to volunteer it in a little pop-up in the corner of the screen. These things, if you look at them closely, they usually will say Google Chrome at the top. What these are pop notifications that are coming from infected websites. What I would do is take note of what website you were at when that started showing. More than likely that website has been infected by some kind of malware, and it has been. I'm going to share a perfect example here. I told you something just happened through the US mail. I talked about that at the beginning. We witnessed a chain supply attack through an insurance company last week where it went out to dentists through an insurance provider. The hacker went in and actually changed the URL in a written letter that went out through email to the doctors asking them to fill out surveys for things. And so the mail, according to the insurance company, the actual letter was legitimate and mailed by them, but the hacker had changed the URL address in the email or the written mail. So when they got it, they were actually hitting an infected website that did 2 things. It destroyed the partition, the actual journal partition on the hard drive, and it tried to delete the BIOS, the UEFI BIOS, to make the machine unusable. So within the 2 minutes she was connected to this, and in our client that we saw, we were able to scrub it by having her just turn the machine off right away, and we were able to recover the journal and everything. But it basically, because she clicked, she got a notice that said, do you want to do this? She hit decline. That's basically hit anything. It means yes. It basically started wiping that system. She had a black screen in literally seconds. Called me. She was panicked. I said, turn it off. Just turn it off. We'll come by and pick it up. And we were able to recover it and have it back on Monday morning. This was on last Friday. But that's the first one I've ever seen go out through the US mail. This is how creative they're getting, okay? It is really getting creative. All right, the other way is URL phishing. Now, do you guys know what URL phishing is? Have you heard that term before? How many of you typed Google and misspelled it? Typed in 1 too many O's, 1 too many G's. You mistyped Amazon. That is URL phishing. Hackers buy these URLs up. They buy them up. For the longest time, anybody use speedtest.net ever to test their speed at their house or business? Did you know a hacker owned speedtest.com for about 5 years? Yeah, so they finally pulled them offline. But yeah, you went there and it said, sorry, your computer's infected. So if you mistyped and did .com instead of .net, you went to a hacker website. They finally got them offline. I don't know what they had to do it, but they finally got them. We found in the dental industry, there's a company called TDO for Endo. They do for endodontics. Somebody actually registered, instead of their help.tdo for endo, they registered the domain help.tdoforendo.com. So if they forgot to put in the dot, they went to an infected web page. This is what hackers do. They target industries, they buy domains because domains are cheap, especially these through China and overseas. They can get them for $1. They're not expensive or next to nothing. They'll buy them in bulk, they'll buy misspellings, and they put malware on these sites that the moment you hit them, they start driving pop-ups in that say things that shouldn't be there. And all you got to do is make it by accident, click one thing you shouldn't, and now you have a problem. Okay. Google results, and I'm going to get into this one in a minute, show you an example of what I'm talking about. How many of you know that literally the first page or two of results are not actually results? It's true. It's absolutely true. Did you know that hackers place ads just like you or me? These are businesses. These guys are not stupid. There was a big deal about 6 months ago where somebody was going out and buying ads for Geek Squad. So if you put in the term Geek Squad, their ad popped up at the top and people were clicking on this. You went to their website, it looked like Geek Squad. You talked to somebody, said they were Geek Squad. You were talking to somebody over in India. And they were scamming people for millions of dollars. They finally got shut down. In fact, there's a really neat website, caught these guys. If you guys want to see something just for fun and entertainment, it's called PC Scammer Payback. They have a YouTube channel. These guys actually have sponsors, and they go in and they actually, for fun, they go in and they actually get into their video feeds and stuff and locate them. It's actually quite fun and entertaining if you're looking for something to pass a few minutes, but it is fun to see these guys panic and sweat a little bit, but it's real. But the problem is the governments are in on this stuff. They actually have videos sometimes where they actually had video feed to the building where they saw police vehicles back up, and they were dropping bags in back of police vehicles. Yeah. Bigger operations do that. They'll shut them down. They pop up as another name a week later. India, Pakistan, a lot of these countries, they don't care. North Korea, they get part of it. Why would they care? Okay. So I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by this and how to differentiate between the results and ads. And it's really easy. You just don't really pay attention to it because most of us are doing 5 things at once and in a hurry. So they count on us being busy, distracted. They're very realistic, a lot of the stuff they present us with. A lot of times they will impersonate our friends. How many of you get invites from friends you already have Facebook page? They're already your Facebook friend, but then you get a Facebook invite from them again. Okay, it happens all the time, right? A lot of that is because they don't have the privacy settings on their Facebook set properly. They have too much stuff out public facing, and so the hackers are ripping it off. They're taking their pictures, their friend list, and they're turning around and hitting their friends, trying to get them to, and the moment you hit accept, then they start, hey, by the way, I found this out, and they start texting you and things like this in the messenger about things that are not what they are. And believe it or not, even though I know better, and most of the people, you may know better, a lot of people don't. And they fall victim to this, all right? Pop-up lookalikes, we just talked about those down in the corner. They're actually driven by Chrome or by Edge. They're powered by the browser. They look like an antivirus pop-up. 9 times out of 10, they're for something you don't even have installed on your computer, but they try to impersonate that. Just close it. Go in your notification settings in Chrome and turn off your Chrome and Edge notifications, and you will see those disappear, okay? So they count on us not being thorough. They count on browser exploits, out-of-date systems, unpatched software, ineffective protection, and this combination of things becomes the magic honeypot for them to get into your lives. Now we're going to talk about 3 ways they're getting into our lives. I've talked about it in the very beginning. These are the beginning ways of how they exploit us. But let's talk about the new ways. So before I get off that, I want to show you this real quick. So I did an IT support for computer support. These are all ads. The next page below this are ads. You know why? Because they say sponsored by. That means these people are paying to be here. These are not results that are anything relative to what I asked for. That means this company is paying for this keyword. okay? And that could be a legitimate company or an illegitimate company. Scroll down further, you'll get down past maybe your local stuff with a map showing you where some of the local stuff is, and then you'll actually see your results, okay? Your results are almost literally second or third page, but they're never on the first page, okay? So be aware of what results are. They're in the business to sell ads. We discovered a scam between Facebook and Shopify last year, and where a Chinese company was going in and pretending to be a outlet furniture for outdoor furniture to consumers, and they were placing Facebook ads in Facebook. And my wife said, "Wow, that's really cheap for that setup." And I looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's a little too good to believe." She goes, "No, we should try it." It was like $390 for a whole outside set that most people would pay $2,000 for, right? I said, "Yeah." And I got a good enough relationship with a bank where I know that I'd get it back. So I let her, I said, "Okay, if you really got it, try it. And maybe it is too good to believe. Maybe it'll happen." So we got a shipping notification, and 3 weeks later, you know what we got in the mail? In our mailbox, we got a little Chinese umbrella this big. I kid you not. We got a Chinese umbrella, a little pop-up umbrella that was this big. And the reason is there's a tracking number to it, so now it's not mail fraud. Now it's a misorder. I called and notified, as a cybersecurity expert, and as a CTO, I contacted the CTO of Shopify to let them know this was happening. I also contacted Facebook. They're paying for the ad. We have no reason to believe they're illegitimate. No one else has complained. I said, "Listen, I'm in the business. I'm telling you this is a scam. I just found 5 other websites with different names of the exact same products with a different company name. They are scamming you guys. This is scripted." And the attitude Shopify took to me was, well, we're getting money. We're not, we don't see any danger in this. We've had a couple of complaints. That's really between you and the company. I said, "Really?" I said, "Let me ask you something. Are you processing the credit cards for those people?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, guess what? You are now complacent in credit card fraud." "Well, how do you figure?" I said, "Because you're processing those fraudulent fees for them, and I've notified you that it's fraudulent as an industry expert. So now you know, and I'm emailing you to make sure you know, and I'm going to copy that to my liaison here in Houston for the FBI. "Oh, well, we're in Canada." I said, "Oh, even better." I'm sure the Attorney General of the United States would love to hear about how Canada is complacent in consumer fraud with Facebook in the United States. A week later, I got all the ads disappeared. I got a "Thank you for notifying us." Yeah, right, okay. I really didn't feel very well perceived at the time, and it took 2 calls to get it and 5 emails, but I feel good that I did something about it. But my point in this is hackers are using every method available to them to target us. I want to talk about zero trust for a minute, and we're going to start with phones. So this leads into what I'm talking about with phones. How many of you access your bank account on your phone? How many of you access business accounts on your phone? Business email, personal email, okay? LinkedIn. How many of you have the Facebook app installed on your phone? Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. Shame. TikTok's the worst. But anyway, we're going to get down to this. So did you know that every single one of those websites will function exactly the same through Chrome? That is just a wrapper for the mobile version of their website. So if you go access that, but here's what they do. If they see you're coming in through Chrome, they pop up a thing that says, "Download our app." You can dismiss that and continue to use it. The difference is when you're accessing it through Chrome on your mobile device, they have no permission to access your GPS. They have no permission to access your files or track your keyboard or anything else. But when you install the app, they're putting a wrapper on that now has permission to do everything on your device they have no business doing. Did you know they were sat in front of Congress 3 months ago and verified to Congress that if you turn off geo-tracking in Facebook, it doesn't turn off? They discovered that turning it off really doesn't do anything, and they were asked this, and they said, "Well, that would disable some functionality in the app." And he's like, "Wait a minute. So if I turn it off, it's not actually turning off?" Well, some things are. It's like, yeah, okay, I think we got our answer. But the point is that they can get all the keyboard strokes you put in, everywhere you've been, all your GPS data. They have access to every file in your system, your pictures, everything. Everything on your phone is now their property, okay? If you don't believe me, go read the agreements. Some are worse than others. And everything through TikTok goes to China. It's already been documented. Every single thing that is, if you give them permission to do that, every piece of your phone sitting in China. Did you know that when your phone is off, it's not off? Did you know if you turn your phone, if I sit here and press the power button on my phone and turn my phone completely off, that they can put malware on my phone that can activate my camera, my microphone, and anything on my phone, you actually download data from my phone without it being on. Yeah. This has been actually around since Snowden broke it, God knows how long ago, but yeah, it's been around even longer. So this is true stuff. This is not, wow, conspiracy theory stuff. This is real, okay? It is true. The cell phone is the key to the kingdom. Now I'm gonna tell you, yes, I access my bank account, yes, I access my business account, but I don't put anything on my phone I do not need. There's no games, there's no social media apps, nothing, okay? The only thing I have on here is what I need to answer my emails, do my business, access my business, and that's it, okay? These are not toys. These things are the keys to the kingdom, and hackers know it. Do you know there are nearly 1,000 times more of these online than there are of these? I can tell you right now, my kids have one computer and 7 mobile devices in their house. That's just one of my kids. Yeah. And I got 4 of them, and 4 grandkids and a 5th on the way. So I mean, it's a lot of devices. Schools in general have tens of thousands of devices connecting through their networks, just one school. Think about how big our Cypher schools are, like a Cypher high school, any of these, Cy Ranch, any of them. And there are what, at any given time, how many thousands of students in there? Now you got teachers on top of that. Now and teachers will have tablets and phones. You got Chromebooks for the kids, you got phones for the kids. Do you know how many mobile devices that is per school compared to these computers? It's a lot. All right, so now it goes in your cloud. Define what you mean by it goes in your cloud. No, it's just all that's keeping record of what's installed on your device. What I would suggest for people, if you really want to know if you really want to start clean with a phone, wipe it. Make sure you got a good backup of your contacts and the things you want to keep. Wipe your phone and install only what you need. By default, like T-Mobile puts a lot of crap on my phone I don't need. It comes installed with games and all sorts of things I don't want. First thing I do is delete everything off of that I don't need. And then I only put the things I do. I literally have maybe, I don't know, besides the main Google apps, I have maybe 8 apps on my phone that I use, and that's it. This is a tool. It's a business tool, and it's a communication tool to talk to my family. I don't want anything on there that can compromise my family or my business, so I treat it that way. MFA, this is responsible for authenticating into every email and bank account I have. Think about that for a minute. Everybody, how many of you get text to your cell phones to validate when you're logging in? How many of you use Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator? This is your validation tool to your life outside of your password. Treat it like a security tool. Don't put biometrics on it, okay? Make sure you're using biometrics in combination with that. So not only do you have to confirm the codes, but you have to use a thumbprint or a face print to validate that that's good. Don't leave it laying around. Do you know it takes the average hacker 30 seconds to actually, who knows what a SIM card is? You've been to a mobile company and they switch out your SIM card, put it in your new phone. Okay, that's your digital ID to the network. A hacker can take that out with a little tool, clone that in under a minute and pop it back in, and you never know. And now they're going to get a copy of everything that comes to your phone, every text, every call, everything, okay? This is what's happening. This is how they're draining accounts with Chase. Do you guys hear about the thing in New York where the people have had they basically hang out near ATMs and in areas where people are leaving and coffee bars and internet bars where people leaving their phones laying around, and they're basically cloning their phones. They go to, and they basically at that point when they start putting in their authentication tools, they use it to get in their phone apps, they're stealing their passwords and stuff, and they're draining their bank accounts. And here's what it comes down to. Chase won't pay for it because they consider that to be your problem for not being secure enough with your stuff. That's fraud. In other words, that's not somebody going in fraudulent, taking from your account. You were stupid enough to let somebody access your device, clone it, and do it. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of that in a minute. Go ahead. They can do both, actually. The most popular way is you leaving your device around. They just grab it real quick. They have a device next door where they can basically scan it, pop it back in. You never even know what happened. They can do it in usually an average of about a good hacker can do it in 30 seconds. How many of you use Starbucks coffee zones? Go into Starbucks, McDonald's, go to an airport, use public Wi-Fi. Okay, how do you know it's theirs? And I'm going to tell you this: there's a hacker can put up a network. Let's say you go into an airport that says public Wi-Fi. Okay. Do you know a hacker can come in there with a device he can put in a backpack and he can put it up and say public Wi-Fi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he can have it relay through the public Wi-Fi at the actual airport, and everything that goes across that network he owns. I don't care if you're in a VPN. I don't care if you contacted your bank, you emailed, he owns it. Every bit of traffic. You know what I use when I travel? I turn on my hotspot. I trust what's on my device. Okay? And if you think VPNs protect you from anything like Nord tries to tell you, don't. VPNs will protect you to a degree. They're meant to hide traffic from the general internet, okay? But they're not going to keep hackers from phishing you. They're not going to stop hackers from stealing credentials. That's baloney. It's misinformation, okay? All right, so let's just take a minute. You've been hacked. Something happens. Let's say you're in this unfortunate situation. Most companies haven't even created a plan. We talked about a cyber response plan. Anybody in a business that deals with somebody else's personal information? Anybody? Okay. Is your device encrypted? Do you send any information back and forth of a personal nature that's encrypted, or do you send it over plain email? Okay, good practice. A lot of systems, like I do some stuff for a mobile notary, and they actually use a secure system called a SaaS, or a software as a service, where it's being done securely. Okay, but they still have some people, and I think it's funny because Chicago Title got the Fidelity, their parent, got hacked last year, and they still have people within their organization that still email PI information back and forth through regular email, like wire transfer stuff and things like that. Even though we tell them not to, they still do it. It's like children. You can tell them what to do, you can show them what to do, you can tell them what's best. They don't always do it because they want to do what's easy, what's convenient, what they're used to. And it's not the best thing for them until they get their hand slapped. So basically, these companies are getting caught, especially if you're a small company and you can't afford to pay the ransom. Even if you pay the ransom, there's no guarantee you're going to get your data back, and there's no guarantee they're going to be out of your life. If this happens to you, you have to report it to the FBI. Okay? And if you can't prove to the FBI that you took proper precautions, you could actually be in some trouble. Now, there's consequences to that. If you have a backup of your data, can restore it, put it up, but you haven't planned for those hackers selling that data. You haven't accounted for the fact of your exposure of them selling that or going back after your clients and attacking them. How'd you get our information? Oh, we hacked so-and-so. Guess who's liable now? Okay? Not all hackers are equal. Some are amateurs. So, ever heard the term ransomware as a service? This has been in the news in the last year. Have you guys heard of this? These are companies, these are the people responsible for the United Healthcare Act and for Caesars, okay? They infiltrate, somebody comes to them with information they know about the company. Maybe they don't like them. Maybe they had a bad experience with the company. Maybe they got fired and felt that were wronged, but they have some information. So they go, oh, I know how to get into this company and I can get you administrative access. Oh, really? Okay, so they go in and they evaluate and they go, yeah, we think we can ransom them for $13 million and we're going to split it with you. They have all the resources. They're located in a country we can't touch. They go in and they hack it, and these people make money from it, and that's called a sponsor, okay? They have all the resources, they give them the information, they split the ransom. That's what's happening now. And these guys have hundreds of people at their disposal across multiple countries. This is a real deal. You hear about them breaking them up and then they reappear as something else. You want to hear something funny about Change? Change paid forget how much it was. I think it was it was a $22 million ransom, if I remember right. $22 million they paid. Okay, they paid it to the group, and then the group disappeared on the sponsor. And they put up a fake web page looking like they got hacked by the FBI and Interpol, so they could make the sponsor think they got hacked and they got caught. Well, FBI came out and said, no, that wasn't us, we didn't do it. And then the group that was part of it that had a copy, they went back and hit them again for another 22 million. So they got hit once by the ransomware as a service company, and got hit a second time by the sponsor. Yeah, really bad. So cyber insurance, if you have it, that's great. I'm going to show you reasons why cyber insurance companies don't pay and why most people never get reimbursed for cyber break-ins through cyber insurance. Company must prove that all employees attended a cybersecurity awareness class. That means everybody who works for the company has to have a certificate within a certain time frame, usually 6 months to a year, that says, I attended and passed a cybersecurity awareness class. Okay? Have to have it and have it on file. Second, you have to prove that you have a proactive policy in place, documented what it is and what you're doing and that it's actively enforced. In other words, what kind of protection do I have? What did I do? A cyber response plan. Okay? Is it determined that the breach was by a state actor or affiliated with a state actor? Won't get paid. That's called an act of terrorism. Guess how many of those? Do you realize that 9 out of 10 hacks are fit in this category? Is determined the breach was caused by a company, contractor, employee, or ex-employee. That means if they were responsible in any way, shape, or form, they're leaking the information or bringing the information that they got in with, you're out of luck. This is what happened is when cyber insurance became a thing, they lost their pants. I mean, big time. It was a loss for them. So what they started to do, start making fine print that they don't tell you about. And they don't tell you about it because they don't want you to know that they have an out, okay? This isn't stuff they're gonna go say, yep, go do this and then we'll insure you. Now, the law's cracking down on them and they're having to get a little more public about it and say something about it, but they're not insuring for as much and it's very, very expensive now, okay? Very, very expensive. So I want you to be aware that these are all reasons and about 9 out of 10 claims are not paid as a result of one of these reasons. What does a complete solution look like? It is an antivirus, okay? We use AI, monitoring, training, PC management, cloud backups. We talked about that. Persistent storage, we put it off in the cloud somewhere. It's not on site, okay? We manage the environment. Microsoft 365, Office, or Google, it doesn't matter. We manage that environment and we monitor it. We make sure MFA is enforced, not just turned on and convenient for the ones that want to use it. It is enforced. That means they have to use it, okay? No ands, ifs, or buts. All right, and by the way, if you have a Microsoft 365 account right now, you have to use it. They made that a mandatory thing March of this year, okay? Cyber training, this means we train people on, like we are today, about what is and what isn't and how to protect yourself. And we're gonna talk, the last thing we're gonna do is talk about zero trust in just a second. There's 3 things we're gonna talk about that you need to exercise. 24/7 monitoring is the last thing. We monitor all this. The reason why that's important is because they can come in either through the person or through the device and you have to monitor both proactively in real time. The only way you prevent loss is by knowing when they're in there, at the time they're in there, because the problem is once they get in, if you don't catch them in the beginning, you're not gonna catch them until it's too late. Because once they get in, they're gonna put themselves in such a way that they're hidden. They're gonna stay in there for a while to see what the best way is to hurt you. And then when they do make themselves known, it's gonna hurt. And you don't know how bad that's gonna be until it actually happens, okay? Yeah, you don't wanna be caught in that situation. Again, it's the plane on the ground in flames and you didn't do it's too late to recover it, okay? What we look at when we're looking at something, and we do phishing simulations, which means we pretend to be the bad guy and try to catch you. So if we do catch you, we tell you what you did wrong and what you should have done right. So we teach you in real time. We do cloud posture, which means we look at your posture for all your cloud services and make sure you're exercising the most secure cloud posture for your company. Encryption where it should be, access where it should be. You're not sharing stuff publicly. We went into a company and found they had 1,300 documents publicly shared through Google Documents. They said, what? Some of these were password files. And they had no clue. Yeah, and we don't even know how long they were shared. We turned all that around and fixed it inside a day. But the point is, when we go into a company, we look at their threshold where they should be for their company type, and then we score them. based on all these things. And then we start ticking away until we get you into the green. Okay? External footprint. We look at your email security. We look at your website security. We can even tell you things that are wrong with your website hoster, which we have done every time, like WP Engine, HostGator, those kind of services that host your websites, whoever your web hoster is. We find there are lots of vulnerabilities for those things. And if you don't know what they are, we do. And we tell you what they are, you send them to your people, they have to patch them. If they don't, then we report them till they do. Dark web, we do active dark web monitoring for every user in your company. And it's not to find out if you're there, it's to find out what information was exposed, okay? The problem is not if you're there or not, it's what is there and are you still using it? So we tell you what password combinations were exposed, where they were exposed, and we give you that information so you can make sure you're not using it anywhere still. And if you are, change it. So the idea is to let you know the moment we see it so you can change it and not have it active in your system, okay? Again, it's not if it's there, it's what's there, and to make sure you're not using anything that is publicized through the dark web, okay? Cloud data, security of cloud data, email protection. We actually put a filter in front of it, so we filter everything coming in. If it's dangerous, we quarantine it. We send you an email that says this is dangerous, we're not sure what it is, we need you to go look at it and make sure you feel this is safe. And you can look at it in a sandbox that's safe without opening it on your computer and make sure you are comfortable with what's in it. If it is, you can let it through. If it's not, you can delete it. You'll never see anything from that source again, okay? Endpoint security, we monitor what's happening on the endpoint security. We actually provide two types. We work with SentinelOne. You've heard that name before, SentinelOne? They're the 800-pound gorilla in the room, in the cybersecurity room. They're doing all this stuff for military and government now since Kaspersky got booted out. We're one of 3 companies in the nation that we're buying in volume to send it out to small business. So we're basically buying it by the thousands so we can sell it out to you guys as little as 1 or 2 at a time. And we include that in the solution. So you're getting basically the same stuff HP and the government is using without having to pay the big price or license thousands of endpoints. That's it. I'm going to pause right now, and I just want you to realize the implications are huge. What you can lose. So it's better to prevent. And I'm going to follow off with one last thing, and I know I've probably gone a little bit over time. I apologize. Zero trust, people. Do not trust anything that's texted to you. Do not trust anything that's emailed to you. Do not trust any calls you're getting from numbers you do not recognize, okay? Don't answer zero trust is the hardest thing to exercise, okay? Don't trust the source. Go back to where your actual service and log in and look. So my parents got a notification that they were overdrawn, that they had a fraud alert with a number. They called that. It wasn't their bank. Okay, they didn't know it. They're 70. My mom's 77. My dad's 88. Okay, they didn't know. They thought they were talking to their bank in Norfolk, or where is it? Norfolk Lake, Arkansas, Mountain Home. A little podunk place out there in the vacation country, and they didn't know. So they thought they were talking to their bank. Sounded like their bank. They were using AI voices to imitate so they couldn't hear their accents. So they're typing in responses to make it sound like American voices now. Did you know that? Yeah, they know their voices are a problem. So now they just have an engine they type into, and that engine says it in very good, clear American. And you can find this stuff, examples of this on YouTube to see what I'm talking about, people that have actually recorded it. And my mom calls me and says, hey, I think I made a mistake. And I said, okay, Mom, what happened? And she goes, I gave my bank password to this guy that called us on fraud. And I said, oh no. I said, Mom, it's illegal for them to even ask that. So that is not your bank. Hang up with them right now. And she was like, no, I'm sure. I said, no, they're not. Hang up. I said, is your bank there local? I said, take your phone, get to the bank right now. And they went, and this all happened like within an hour. They got there. These people were already trying to remove $25,000 from their account by the time they got there. Now, here's the bad news. The good news is they caught them for them. Okay, the bad news is if they would have gotten through with that, the bank would have given zero back to them because that is not covered under FDIC insurance, you being stupid. They do not cover you falling for fraud. They cover fraudulent electronic detection like somebody stealing your credit card and doing it through and ordering something, but that's fraud. But when they trick you into giving them permission to send money and do things you shouldn't, that's on you. You got it. That's your loss. And Chase Chase is involved in several class lawsuits over this because this is happening to a lot of Chase clients. They got millions of dollars being lost to clients, and the clients are pissed. But Chase's argument is valid. They fell for something they shouldn't have done. They did it, and they're responsible. So zero trust, guys. That's all I got left. I know we don't have a lot of time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good information.
I'm going to leave that. If you guys want to contact me, take a picture of this. We do free demos, and we come out and we do this kind of education for anybody that wants it on a company level.